The world's truly terrifying eras do not rely on peaceful trade. They build regimes of sprawling territorial dominance and endless military endurance. Today we glimpse into the grueling trenches of history's longest battles ever fought. We will explore the Battle of Verdun, the Siege of Ostend, and the Siege of Harlech. We will witness the Siege of Leningrad, the Siege of Sarajevo, and the Battle of the Atlantic. We will experience the Siege of Ishiama-Honganji, the Siege of Drepana, and the Siege of Candia. Finally, we will reveal the staggering multi-decade duration of the Siege of Ceuta. Before we dive in, please like and subscribe to Stickman Chronicles right now. Hitting that big subscribe button helps us bring you more high-quality history videos. Do not forget to turn on the notification bell for your daily history fix. Let's start our global journey in the muddy trenches of the First World War at Verdun. The terrifying situation unfolded as the German High Command intended to completely bleed the French army dry. They launched an immense artillery bombardment that completely shattered the surrounding ancient forests. Millions of artillery shells rained down continuously for an astonishing 302 days. The fierce combat devolved into brutal hand-to-hand struggles over a few yards of entirely destroyed lunar landscape. Soldiers completely lived and died in sprawling flooded craters, surrounded by the staggering smell of decay. The French defenders fiercely held their ground, declaring boldly that the enemy shall not pass. This endless meat grinder completely consumed over 700,000 casualties without achieving any major strategic breakthrough. It remains an undying global symbol of how supreme martial stubbornness can forge a completely tragic legacy. Our next glimpse into sweeping endurance erupts across the coastal waters with the grueling Siege of Ostend. The ambitious Spanish Empire completely surrounded the heavily fortified Dutch rebel port to choke off their vital supplies. Brave Dutch defenders fought entirely into the terrifying unknown, repelling continuous fierce assaults for over 3 years. They successfully established heavily fortified trenches that stretched from the sweeping beaches directly to the city walls. The aggressive Spanish cannons completely shattered local defense networks, requiring the defenders to constantly rebuild under heavy fire. Both sides utilized incredibly innovative and deadly siege engines entirely ahead of their specific era. They held together a vast, diverse coalition of international mercenaries dying slowly in the disease-ridden coastal mud. The staggering sheer scale of casualties completely shocked the surrounding European kingdoms. They proved that a small coastal garrison could successfully tie down an entire sprawling imperial army for years. Moving to the rugged coastlines of Wales, we find the vast and relentless siege of Harlech Castle. The staggering explosion of the Wars of the Roses completely divided the English noble houses into bitter warring factions. The reigning Lancastrian forces governed the sprawling stone fortress directly overlooking the dangerous sweeping sea. They repelled entirely coordinated Yorkist assaults for an astonishing 7 continuous years. Their highly secure maritime supply lines completely outmaneuvered the exhausted attackers waiting in the freezing hills. They swept rapidly across the local provinces, gathering supplies and spreading their fierce rebellion completely unchecked. In a matter of mere months, their sprawling defensive reputation stretched across the harsh northern mountains. The garrison eventually surrendered only when their sweeping external support network completely collapsed entirely. Their incredible defensive footprint completely inspired the legendary historic song known as Men of Harlech Forever. The sweeping destruction of the Second World War led to the terrifying and tragic siege of Leningrad. The advancing German army violently encircled the entire sprawling metropolitan city, completely cutting off all supply routes. The trapped citizens deliberately transitioned away from ordinary civilian life to focus on sheer biological survival. Over 1 million desperate residents completely starved to death during the highly freezing sub-zero winter months. They built a legendary treacherous ice road across a frozen lake just to smuggle tiny amounts of vital grain. The brilliant civilian population completely mobilized to build endless tank traps and barricades under continuous heavy bombardment. They maintained complete operational control over their freezing factories by utilizing highly exhausted and starving workers. The golden age of their sprawling city was completely reduced to rubble and ash over 800 grueling days. They proved that a highly determined civilian population can successfully resist the most terrifying mechanized invasion through pure willpower. Traveling to modern Europe, we witness the sprawling urban tragedy of the Siege of Sarajevo. The ambitious nationalist forces completely surrounded the valley city, occupying every single high-elevation vantage point. They justified their fierce, violent bombardment through a highly brutal ethnic conflict that shocked the modern world. Their highly disciplined sniper units completely terrorized innocent civilians attempting to gather basic water and firewood. The trapped population completely endured staggering daily artillery barrages, drawing on entirely unbreakable community resilience. They established highly secret underground smuggling tunnels using completely manual labor to extract local citizens and import food. At its towering peak, the fierce siege lasted longer than the entire staggering destruction of Stalingrad. They produced highly resourceful makeshift weapons and power generators entirely out of salvage car parts. Their staggering defensive endurance completely embedded the true horrors of modern urban warfare into global consciousness. Before we reveal the final 5 longest battles in history, please like this video and subscribe to Stickman Chronicles. Your daily support helps us spend more time researching these incredible historical survival stories. Leave a comment right below about which sprawling military conflict has shocked you the most so far. Deep in the freezing, treacherous waters of the ocean, an immense naval struggle emerges, known to history as the Battle of the Atlantic. A fierce coalition of Allied ships completely mobilized to protect the sprawling vital supply convoys traveling from America. They faced the terrifying threat of stealthy German submarine wolf packs hunting the dark waters. The brilliant naval commanders completely secured their vast shipping lanes by launching aggressive anti-submarine campaigns. They successfully threw thousands of brave merchant sailors into the brutal, unforgiving, freezing swells for nearly 6 years. They ruled over a staggering maritime theater, making it the most expansive, continuous naval campaign of its specific time. The staggering sheer scale of sinking ships completely threatened to starve the entire island nation of Britain into immediate surrender. They created a vast, highly sophisticated code-breaking system to efficiently intercept the highly secure enemy radio transmissions. Their sweeping numerical expansion created the exact necessary logistical bridge to successfully liberate the European continent. The sheer scale of regional conquest escalates with the magnificent and completely terrifying siege of Ishiyama Honganji. Following the successful unification efforts of Oda Nobunaga, the fierce warlord unleashed heavily armed samurai upon a fortified warrior monk temple. They became the highly aggressive obstacle, completely blocking the sprawling imperial ambition of the famous Japanese conqueror. The fierce warrior monks followed a highly strict religious devotion that completely forbade surrendering their sacred fortress. They utilized highly superior matchlock rifles and devastating naval resupply networks to shatter vast samurai infantry charges. They completely held the wealthy river delta, extracting giant tactical advantages from the sprawling muddy terrain. The sweeping flow of endless tactical assaults completely failed to break the sprawling, invincible fortress walls for 10 entire years. They established a huge network of fortified alliances connecting rural uprisings directly to the central temple defense. This unmatched, vast defensive stand permanently, completely altered the political and religious makeup of the entire Japanese archipelago. Across the vast, freezing waters of antiquity, the completely sweeping siege of Drepana completely redrew the ancient map. The ambitious Roman Republic completely threw its entire sprawling military might against the impregnable Carthaginian coastal fortress. Their rugged infantrymen completely besieged the huge stone walls of the Sicilian stronghold, seeking highly decisive victories. They utilized incredibly efficient engineering and vast naval blockades to completely starve the fierce defenders. The Carthaginian forces completely churned out endless streams of counterattacks, breaking the sprawling blockades repeatedly. They brutally crushed entirely thousands of elite Roman legionaries, forcing the Republic to completely rebuild its fleet multiple times. The vast military standoff eventually stretched continuously for 8 grueling years of highly bloody attrition. They held highly supreme authority over the vital naval straits, completely dictating the flow of the First Punic War. The sheer vast immensity of the Carthaginian resilience became their greatest unshakable defense against the rising Roman superpower. The blueprint of staggering continental dominance was perfected by the highly legendary Siege of Candia. The brilliant, ruthless Ottoman Empire entirely surrounded the Venetian-held island fortress of Crete. They successfully initiated the highly coordinated and longest continuous siege in the entire recorded history of a human race. Thousands of soldiers were drafted into highly specialized trench-digging units designed entirely to sustain endless explosive operations. They unleashed a completely unstoppable sprawling bombardment that utilized intense subterranean mining to collapse the city walls. The Venetian defenders routinely bypassed entirely expected surrender protocols and utilized rapid sweeping countersallies to paralyze the attackers. Their fierce resistance completely annihilated the elite, sprawling infantry armies sent by the Ottoman sultans for 21 years. They established a vast, hyper-efficient naval supply system that allowed completely rapid reinforcements from sympathetic European allies. They proved that highly refined, raw endurance and sheer structural brilliance can completely stall an entire global empire for decades. Finally, we arrive at the truly undisputed zenith of endless warfare with the staggering Siege of Ceuta. The vast, sprawling Moroccan army completely surrounded the Spanish-held North African coastal enclave to reclaim their territory. They utilized highly advanced siege lines and deadly repeating artillery to completely lock the Spanish garrison inside the city limits. Through the sweeping and completely ruthless high command, they systematically bombarded the sprawling coastal fortress continuously. They aggressively maintained their sprawling blockade for an astonishing 33 years without ever breaching the main walls. At its towering global peak, generations of soldiers completely lived and died within the exact same trench lines. The staggering human cost of this endless stalemate left tens of thousands of soldiers completely exhausted across the harsh terrain. The Spanish garrison justified their highly brutal defensive sacrifices through a completely unyielding belief in their territorial sovereignty. They completely reshaped global endurance records, causing sweeping cultural and political shockwaves that are still fiercely remembered today. This unmatched, vast military standoff makes it the highly longest and most globally enduring continuous battle in human history. These gripping narratives prove that human resourcefulness can shatter the strongest chains on Earth completely. Please make sure to like this video and subscribe to Stickman Chronicles right now. See you tomorrow as we upload high-quality history videos every single day without fail.